When we think of American wealth, we picture oil tycoons and tech visionaries, icons of innovation and ambition who shaped the nation's destiny. Their stories fill our textbooks and museums, celebrated as the architects of modern prosperity. But there's a hidden chapter in America's rise to power, one rarely discussed in polite company. Behind the scenes, fortunes were built not just on industry or invention, but on the international opium trade, a business as lucrative as it was shadowy. In the 1800s, American merchants in Boston and New York ran a global drug business, selling opium in China and amassing staggering profits. These were not small-time smugglers, but respected businessmen whose names would later become synonymous with philanthropy and progress. They built some of the fastest ships of their era, designed specifically to outrun authorities and maximize profits. Smuggling drugs across oceans, they laundered their earnings through banks and investments, pouring their wealth into the very foundations of the American economy: railroads, factories, and banks. The trade imbalance with China, America wanted tea and silk, but China wanted only silver, was solved by selling opium, a product China didn't want but couldn't resist. This trade not only shifted the global balance of wealth, but also set the stage for future conflicts and dependencies. Grown in British India and Turkey, opium became the key to unlocking China's wealth. The poppy fields of Asia fueled a transcontinental pipeline of addiction and profit, with American merchants at its center. These merchants were celebrated as entrepreneurs, not criminals. Their profits funded the rise of Ivy League universities, grand museums, and the bustling financial markets of Wall Street. Their legacies were woven into the fabric of American culture and education. Today, their names are etched on America's most prestigious buildings, on university halls, museum wings, and financial institutions, yet the origins of their wealth are quietly forgotten, their true stories hidden in plain sight. This hidden history complicates the story of American success, revealing that some of our greatest fortunes were built on the suffering of others. The opium trade left deep scars in China, devastating families and communities while fueling the rise of American power. To truly understand American power and prosperity, we must confront this uncomfortable truth, acknowledging that the foundations of our success are more complex and more troubling than we often admit. The architects of America's opium empire were the East Coast elite, the Boston Brahmins. Robert Bennett Forbes captained fast clipper ships, smuggling vast quantities of opium into China and channeling profits back home. Warren Delano Jr., FDR's grandfather, managed the opium trade for Russell and Company, using bribery and cunning to outmaneuver Chinese authorities. The Perkins, Cushing, and Russell families pioneered and expanded the trade, with Russell and Company's profits helping to fund Yale and its secret society, Skull and Bones. Even John Jacob Astor, America's first multimillionaire, profited by transporting opium and investing in Manhattan real estate. These men were bold, ambitious, and morally flexible, creating dynasties that shaped America for generations. Their legacies are woven into the fabric of American society, their origins largely erased. The Opium Kings were not outlaws. They were the merchant princes of their day. The American opium trade was predatory capitalism at its finest, a ruthless system that prioritized profit above all else, regardless of the human cost. American merchants sourced raw opium from vast poppy fields in India and Turkey, where local laborers toiled under harsh conditions. The harvested opium was packed into chests, loaded onto sleek, fast clipper ships, and sent on a perilous journey across the ocean to China, a country where the drug was strictly banned. Upon arrival, these ships would anchor just outside Chinese ports, transforming into floating warehouses. This allowed the merchants to avoid direct confrontation with Chinese authorities and keep their illicit cargo safe from seizure. Under the cover of darkness, Chinese smugglers would row out in small boats, exchanging silver for opium in secret. These covert transactions were carefully orchestrated to evade Chinese law enforcement, who were constantly on the lookout for illegal trade. Bribery was rampant. American firms routinely paid off local officials and customs agents to ensure the trade continued smoothly. Corruption became an integral part of the business, greasing the wheels of this international operation. The opium quickly spread throughout China, fueling a devastating wave of addiction and misery. Entire communities suffered as families were torn apart and public health collapsed under the weight of the epidemic. The silver earned from these sales was then used to purchase coveted Chinese goods, tea, silk, and porcelain. These luxury items were loaded onto ships and transported back to the United States and Europe, where they fetched enormous profits. This created a self-sustaining triangle of commerce. Opium flowed into China, silver flowed to the merchants, and Chinese goods flowed to the West, fueling a cycle that seemed impossible to break. The arrival of these goods in Western ports was met with excitement, as merchants and consumers alike clamored for the exotic products from the East. The system solved America's trade imbalance with China and made merchant families incredibly rich, elevating them to the highest ranks of society and finance. But beneath the surface, it was a business model built on addiction, corruption, and exploitation, one that left a legacy of suffering in its wake. The cycle was devastating for China, leaving generations to deal with the consequences, but for America, it was a source of immense and lasting profit. The opium trade devastated China. What began as a luxury for a few became a nationwide epidemic, millions addicted, families destroyed, communities hollowed out, silver drained from China, causing economic crisis, inflation, and crippling the government's ability to function. Opium dens became common, productivity collapsed, and crime soared as addicts sought to feed their habits. The Chinese government faced a public health disaster, unable to stop the flow of drugs or the corruption rotting its bureaucracy. The trade was economic warfare, draining China's wealth and pride. The psychological toll was immense. China's self-image as the Middle Kingdom was shattered. The Qing dynasty's weakness was exposed and national humiliation set in. The opium trade was not just commerce, it was an assault on China's sovereignty and society. American merchants profited while a nation suffered. In 1839, China made a bold attempt to end the devastating opium crisis that was crippling its society and economy. Commissioner Lin Zexu, acting on imperial orders, confiscated and destroyed more than 20,000 chests of opium, a dramatic act that directly challenged British interests and provoked the First Opium War. While the U.S. government officially claimed neutrality in the conflict, American merchants saw opportunity in the chaos and uncertainty that followed. These merchants supplied the British with goods, smuggled opium themselves, and quickly took over abandoned trade routes, reaping huge profits from the ongoing conflict and instability. Notable figures like Robert Bennett Forbes worked closely with British traders, all while maintaining the appearance of neutrality. Their actions ensured that American commercial interests would thrive, no matter which side emerged victorious. The war ended with China's defeat and the Treaty of Nanking, which forced China to open several ports to foreign trade and cede Hong Kong to Britain, forever altering the balance of power in the region. Seizing the moment, American diplomats quickly negotiated their own treaty, securing the same privileges as the British and dramatically expanding American access to the vast Chinese market. The opium trade not only continued, but became easier and more lucrative than ever before, as new ports and legal loopholes allowed foreign merchants to operate with little interference. Although Britain fought the war, the outcome secured the future of America's opium fortunes, linking American prosperity to the suffering in China. American opportunism and business acumen ensured their profits not only survived the conflict, but grew substantially in the years that followed. The legacy of these actions, rooted in commerce, conflict, and diplomacy, still echoes in the complex relationship between the United States and China today. The fortunes made in China didn't stay there. They were laundered into the American economy. Opium money financed railroads, including the Transcontinental Line, and transformed farmland into Manhattan's most valuable real estate. Boston's neighborhoods and commercial districts were built with drug profits. The financial sector boomed. Banks and insurance companies grew rich handling opium money, laying the groundwork for modern American finance. These investments turned illicit profits into respectable assets, embedding drug money into the nation's infrastructure. The opium merchants became railroad presidents, bank directors, and real estate moguls. Their wealth, once tainted, became the foundation of enduring dynasties. The transformation was complete. Drug money became the engine of American progress. The origins of this wealth were quietly forgotten. Opium profits didn't just build industries, they built America's institutions. Merchant families became philanthropists, donating to universities and cultural centers to secure social legitimacy. Harvard's Gore Hall and Yale's Skull and Bones were funded with opium money. Princeton, Columbia, and countless cultural and medical institutions received similar donations. Boston's Athenaeum and Massachusetts General Hospital were built with fortunes from the China trade. These gifts washed the donors' reputations clean, turning drug traders into civic leaders. Their names were carved in stone, their origins erased. Strategic philanthropy embedded opium wealth into the heart of American culture and intellect. The legacy of these donations still shapes our institutions today. With their money laundered, the opium families set out to launder their history. They commissioned flattering portraits, funded biographies, and curated their papers to hide the truth. As philanthropists and political influencers, they shaped treaties and policies to protect their interests. Public acts of patriotism and civic virtue overshadowed their criminal pasts. Their children inherited sanitized stories of adventure, not exploitation. Historians, often funded by these families, avoided probing too deeply. The opium trade became a footnote, if mentioned at all. The result, a national whitewash transforming drug lords into American aristocracy. This forgotten history is more than a curiosity, it's a lens on American power. The opium fortunes reveal that our institutions and elites are rooted in exploitation. The legacy of this trade still shapes finance, politics, and culture. In China, the memory of the opium wars fuels mistrust of the West, shaping global relations. The story shows how wealth can rewrite history and manufacture respectability. Today we see similar tactics, philanthropy and PR used to launder reputations. Uncovering this history challenges us to confront uncomfortable truths about American prosperity. It's not about blaming descendants, but about honest reckoning. The opium fortunes are a dark secret, one we ignore at our own peril.